Now it's time to answer a question submitted by you. Today's listener question is less of a listener question and more of my response to the comments that we got on episode 37. Episode 37 is when I covered Dave Ramsey's most dangerous advice when it came to safe withdrawal rates, and there were a number of comments that expressed some confusion as to how a safe withdrawal rate percentage gets applied mathematically to a retirement strategy. For example, Kleindropper commented this: "Your sheets are wrong. It's impossible to get a negative number if growth is 10% and your withdrawal rate is 8. For example, an 8% withdrawal from a $550,000 nest egg is $44K, not $92.7K. I did make an effort in the comments to explain this better, and the response I got was being called silly. So I'm going to do my best to clarify things here in case it was confusing for you as well. In the original Trinity study from the 1990s, the 4% rule that's cited from there is 4% of the initial nest egg value. So if you retired with $1 million, 4% would be $40,000. Now the next year would not be 4% of the nest egg's value that year. It would be $40,000 corrected for inflation on through retirement. The idea of the safe withdrawal rate that was presented in the Trinity study was a withdrawal rate based on your initial nest egg value. If you were to maintain that particular income, that distribution's buying power throughout the rest of retirement. That's not to say that 4% is the running amount that you pull every year from the balance of the nest egg relative to the running balance of the nest egg. If you did that, running out of money would not be the primary concern of anybody's study, because taking 4% of a running balance is never going to drive you into zero. What it's going to do is give you a very volatile, depending on your portfolio, a very volatile income throughout retirement, and possibly trend your buying power downward so that your retirement income that's generated from your nest egg gives you less and less and less. Now here, as we are doing a running nest egg relative withdrawal rate, and I want to show you what that does, the smooth curve looks like everything increases gently over time. But in reality, we have volatile wiggles. So you'll see income starts, again, at $40,000 for the initial $1 million in 2002. It goes up as the market goes up early on, but then in 2006, things take a dip, and you'll see that the income in 2010 on the spreadsheet here drops down below $40,000, and that's not corrected for inflation. So you're a few years into retirement now, 8 years into retirement, and your nominal income is about the same as where you started. This means that if you correct for inflation, your buying power is significantly diminished. And the trend continues on the spreadsheet to show, again, volatile income. But on the whole, using a 4% safe withdrawal rate that's relative to the running nest egg will give you similar ending nest egg results to using an initial 4% and correcting for inflation over time. This is because 4% is relatively conservative and does not put a major impact on the particular portfolio here that we're pulling from, the index fund we're pulling from. If we were to up it to 8%, we'll see there's a much more significant impact. Early on, you might be making 6 figures after the market goes up a little bit, but when the market drops, your income gets cut almost in half from its previous high. And it stays low, it stays suppressed. It doesn't get as high as when we had 4%. When we used a 4% withdrawal rate, your ending nominal income in 2022 for retirement was $95,000. When we use 8%, it's $85,000. Let's try going a little crazier with 10%. When I put 10% in the spreadsheet, we see that we're really truly cut in half from the high in 2010. We go from $122,000 at the peak all the way down to $62,000 some dollars at the bottom of the trough. And the nest egg really doesn't recover. So if we have a safe withdrawal rate that's relative to the running nest egg value and we make it too aggressive as opposed to conservative, we end up with a withdrawal strategy that diminishes the overall nest egg. Here we end with, less than $600,000 in the nest egg, not correcting for inflation. So we're chewing into the golden goose that lays the eggs when we use this strategy. We're dealing with volatile income, and it's an approach that was not reflective of the example I wanted to give. The purpose of the example I showed in episode 37 was to show that sequence risk and volatility risk, exist, and you can't just use a smoothed curve to simulate your withdrawal strategy in retirement. I hope that clears things up on how the math works for the safe withdrawal rate strategy that has been cited in past episodes.